Hey, high schoolers, it's me, Brent from the Mandarin campus, and this week we have got a new series that we're going to be doing for 2 weeks called I Have Questions. And I Have Questions is answering a couple things about some hot topics that we've got right now. And so this week we're going to be talking about something that's very hot topic. It's especially this time of year in this specific year, and that topic is arguing. The fact is that everybody has an argument and that they stand by, whether it's maybe LeBron is the GOAT or Michael Jordan is the GOAT or it's Brady or Manning or Reese's Cups or candy corn for Halloween or whatever. And the fact is we all have points of view. We all have things that we have an argument for. And the fact is that sometimes when we get into arguments, we can get very, very heated. And a lot of arguments can end up causing problems with the relationships that we have. I'll give you an example. In my house, I have a way of doing things, and my wife has a way of doing things. And one of those things that we don't necessarily argue with our words, but we do have differing opinions. We have differing arguments for it. And mine is that when we load the dishwasher was made to line everything up in a specific way, in a specific order, in a specific spot, on a specific shelf, so that the water can flow through and the soap can flow through, and it can clean everything, and it can get your plates nice and clean, and you don't have your peanut butter stuck on your fork or spoon or whatever, and you can put them back in your drawers in the house, and they're nice and clean. And my wife and her family have a little bit different of a view. Their view is that you just kind of shove everything in there and hope it works. And, my opinion kind of doesn't sit well with her, and her opinion doesn't sit well with me. And sometimes we have some disagreements on that. We have an argument on it, but it's something that, we both cannot agree on, is just either line it up or just shove everything in there and hope it works. But the thing was designed for you to line it up. Like I said, our world is full of arguments. And an argument can be something very simple. Like I said, Reese's or candy corn. It could be something very difficult. It can be, does God exist? God exists, God doesn't exist. Jesus is the Savior, or something else. And there are some very arguments from small to large things that all of us hold an opinion on. Sometimes we don't really think about them, and sometimes we get pulled into an argument, and we have to start really defending our point, whether we've even really thought about how much we really believe in our point or not. And the fact is that arguments happen all the time. The dictionary definition of an argument is a reason or set of reasons given with the aim of persuading others that an action, an idea is right or wrong. That's one definition of an argument. It's something that it's an idea that I hold or that you would hold, and when you discuss this, you want to persuade that person to believe what you believe because you feel that you are right and your argument is correct. For example, I believe that if Jesus rose from the dead, then he is who he says he is. He is God, and God exists, and therefore you should follow Jesus. Somebody would have an argument that, well, Jesus didn't actually, raise from the dead. This is what happened, and maybe it was the thing where he fell asleep and he blah, 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 blah. Anyway, an argument in the most pure sense of what an argument is something that you have a point of view that you're trying to persuade someone else to agree on. Or the noun version of an argument is it is an idea that you hold about a topic. The other definition of an argument, which is more so what we end up seeing arguments be most of the time, is this: an exchange of diverging or opposite views, typically a heated or angry one. So this is the kind of argument that we tend to see a lot more often, because when we really get involved in an argument, we really, really want to do just one thing in that argument. We want to win. I want to win this argument. You need to understand that Reese's Cups are better than candy corn, or you need to understand that candy corn's better than Reese's Cups, or LeBron is better than Jordan, or Jordan's better than LeBron. And people get so worked up over things that they just want to win. They get to the point where you don't even want to actually argue points. You don't actually want to really get down to the heart of it. You just want to win. And there's a couple different tactics that we tend to use in order to win an argument. It could be yelling. It could be becoming very quiet and just saying that, you know what, I'm not going to say that. It could be ghosting the person, especially if you're arguing over, over the social media, or you're arguing over text or something like that. It can just be ghost them because, hey, I win the argument if you don't even have somebody to argue with. It could be physically fighting. Some people resort to that. Would not recommend it because that really isn't a good way to resolve an issue. Another thing that we see it very often, especially in our day and age, is people start to devalue and dehumanize the person that they're arguing with. That's probably the biggest one that I see lately is if you don't believe in this political stance or that political stance, then you're not a good human being. You're a terrible person. You are horrible, and you are somebody that I don't ever want to be around because you are terrible because you believe this. Anywhere you go, you're going to have arguments that are for or against things, and you're going to have tactics that people use in order to try and win the argument. And none of these tactics are really good because ultimately when you're just wanting to win the argument, you don't really care about that person. You just want to feel good. You want to feel like you've won something. You want to feel like you're the conqueror. You're the victor in this conversation, and you're somebody who is winning. Anywhere you go, you're going to find people that are for or against just about anything. Like I said, something as small as candy corn, Reese's Cups, all the way to does God exist, does God not exist? And it's honestly gotten to the point now, especially when it comes to politics, that if you don't have a strong point of view this way or that way, people start attacking you because they feel like if you're not agreeing with me, then you must be agreeing with the other person, and then or vice versa. Well, if you're not agreeing with this person, then you must be agreeing with that person, and you're terrible either way. Because we want to dehumanize people, we want to make them feel bad because we want to win the argument, we want to have the moral high ground, and we want to feel like I'm the right one, everybody else is wrong, and you all are terrible human beings because you don't believe what I believe. And the fact is this happens a lot. And it gets to the point now where there are a lot of arguments that are just unavoidable because of the fact that people will draw you into these arguments. But if we follow Jesus, is that really the way that we need to argue? Is that really the way that we need to be when we're in an argument? You see, Jesus had a lot of arguments that he got pulled into. He had a lot of times when the Pharisees, the scribes, or the people, they were trying to figure things out about the ways God thinks, and they pulled Jesus into an argument, and they were always asking him about how, what do you believe on this? What do you believe on that? In order to try and trick him or trap him or make him, say something that's wrong. And they always wanted him to have an argument, and they wanted to have an argument with him to figure out where he stands so they could, kind of point him out. And the thing about it is they took this to the extreme that if they eventually got it to the point where, he was saying certain things that they felt were enough to kill Jesus. And when you start dehumanizing a person, when you start challenging somebody to the point where you're gonna be okay with that person dying or something bad happening to them, man, you've really lost your way, and you've really lost what the point of an argument is in the first place. It's to persuade somebody to come over to your side. It's not to make that person feel like they're a terrible human being or to kill them or make them hurt. It's to help them understand where you're coming from. You see, when Jesus got into an argument with the leaders of the day, when he got into an argument with these religious leaders, his point always was changing their heart. It was helping them understand a little bit more about God and act a little bit more like him. And Jesus was more concerned about their heart and about their salvation and about their eternity than he was about being necessarily right. Now, Jesus was always right, but he was more concerned about the person than he was about his point, because he was more concerned that they would accept and understand that the way that they were looking at things wasn't correct. It wasn't from God. It wasn't holy necessarily. And sometimes they were pretty correct. They were just missing something. They were just missing the mark. And they would get really heated because he would tell them something and say, no, this is how you should really understand this, because this is how you show love to God. His ultimate point was to change their hearts so they would love God more. James kind of talks a little bit about arguments. He mentions a little bit about what it is to be wise. James is a book of wisdom, and James was the brother of Jesus. And he was writing about what it means to be wise in God's eyes. And what he said in James 1:19 is, "My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry." You see, if we follow this rule, if we do what James is saying, he's saying to be slow to speak, quick to listen, and understand, and slow to get angry. We need to actively listen. And actively listen is not just listening so that I can have a rebuttal. It's listening to try and understand what is at the heart of what this person is saying. Actively listen and try to understand them so that you can help build your relationship instead of cutting them down. And then don't speak reactively. Don't reactively listen so that you can only hear what the part that you want to hear so that you can jump back at them and you can clap back at them. But listen and try to understand and try to get to know this person and where they're coming from. Because the fact is you hold points of view that are very strong in your life, and I hold points of view that are very strong in my life because of things that have happened in my life or things that have happened in your life that have gotten you to believe that way. And when you're only listening to have a rebuttal for somebody, only listening to clap back at them, you're not thinking about the fact that what has happened in this person's life to make them think this way or make them argue, hold this argument. And you're forgetting that that's a person there. That person has a life. They have life experience that has happened in their lives, and that is why they believe what they believe. And it's important to know, especially if we are followers of Jesus and we want everybody to come to know Jesus, that when we get into an argument, you never win an argument if you lose the relationship. Too often in our culture now, we feel like everybody has to agree 100% on everything, or that person's a terrible human being, and they're wrong, and they're horrible, and I hate them. That's the mindset of our culture right now, is we can't be friends unless we agree 100% on everything. And that's just not true. I mean, like Jen and I in the dishwasher, I know that's a goofy example, but we don't have to agree 100% on every single thing. And I guarantee you, if you dig deep enough, you're going to find out that not everybody that you are friends with agrees with you 100%. Jen and I probably agree about 50 to 70% on everything, but that's not 100%. We agree on most things, but that doesn't mean we agree on everything. And it's okay that we don't agree on everything. We need to understand that it's okay to not agree on everything, especially if you get into an argument with a friend or somebody at church or a family member. Understand that you don't have to agree on everything to continue the relationship, because you don't win an argument if you lose the relationship. And so instead of thinking, how do I win this argument, we need to start thinking, how can I win this relationship? What can I do in the middle of an argument to show this person that I care about them, I love them, and even though we disagree on this thing, I still love them more than our disagreement? It's too easy today to discard people because they believe different things than you and they act different than you, especially right now in this time when we're in the middle of an election is coming up and all these things, and there's politics everywhere, and you have to stand on this side or that side or whatever, or you're a terrible person, and that's just the way our culture says things. And it's too easy to just discard somebody because they disagree with you. Even though, like I just said, we're never going to 100% agree with every single person in our life. And the fact is there's going to be times, if you're a follower of Jesus, where you're not going to completely agree with what Jesus is telling you to do. And in those moments, that's called conviction. That's Jesus telling you that, hey, you believe something that is incorrect, and you need to actually change and understand what it is that Jesus is trying to get you to do. I've had to do that in my life plenty. There are plenty of things in my life that I think should be right, but I'm not Jesus and I don't make the rules. And so I have to understand that if I'm going to follow Jesus, I need to understand that when I'm wrong in my relationship with Jesus, then I need to give up and let him lead and let Jesus be Jesus. It's not easy to choose that we're going to win a relationship when arguments come up. And so there's a couple of quick tips that I want to give you in order to, kind of help you when you do get into an argument with a friend or a family member or a church member. And it's this. Start today. You can memorize James 1:19. Number 2, pause and pray before you get into an argument. If somebody makes a comment and you know that it's going to start an argument, you need to just stop or just say, hey, I know you're really heated about this, or I know this is something you're very passionate about, but I really just don't know if we should talk about this right now. Let's cool off, or something along those lines, so that you can kind of diffuse the situation before you go get into a really heated argument that could lose a relationship. And number 3 is empathize. Like I said, you don't know what made somebody choose to believe the things that they believe in their life. You don't know what's happened in their life. You don't know what's brought them to this moment so that they believe what it is that they believe. And so actively listen. Don't reactively listen. Actively listen. Wait to speak. Try to understand what this person is getting at. And understand, too, you're not going to be able to change every single person. You're not going to be able to change every single other person. My wife, she still loads the dishwasher the way that she does, and I load it my way, and we're just okay with that. Whether dishes are cleaner or less cleaner is irrelevant, because at the end of the day, that's not something that changes our relationship. That's just something we would disagree on. And again, we're not going to agree 100% on every single thing, but it's not about agreeing on everything to have a relationship. It's having a relationship even though we are different, because God created each and every person different and unique, so that you're not going to agree with everything with me. I'm not going to agree with everything with you, but we can still be friends. And that's the cool thing about it. As long as we can agree that Jesus is Lord and we follow Jesus, then every other thing we can kind of work out as we go along. And so as you're going into small groups this week, think about a relationship in your life that you could do better if you practice James 1:19. Ask yourself this: if I am quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry with blank, how can I win that relationship? Have a great week.